The Galmarian Confederation had explored thousands of worlds across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. For nearly 40,000 years, they had traveled among the stars. They saw themselves as the masters of all scientific knowledge. No other species came close to their level of understanding or technology. High Observer Zeth Kar often said to the Galactic Council, "The universe holds few secrets from those patient enough to uncover them." The other council members would nod in agreement. The Galmarians had seen civilizations rise and fall. They had guided some, observed others, and recorded it all in their vast databases. When the Galmarians detected radio signals from the Sol system, they followed standard procedure. They sent their science vessel Eternal Seeker to observe the planet called Earth. Chief Xenobiologist Vril Nara led the research team. Cultural integration specialist Dex Mora joined as well. The Eternal Seeker entered Earth orbit quietly. The Galmarians used advanced cloaking technology to hide their ship. They were sure the humans could not detect them. "Another primitive species taking their first steps," Vril Nara said as they watched Earth turn below them. The blue-green planet looked like so many others they had studied. Dex Mora nodded. "How many times have we seen this same story unfold?" "At least they haven't destroyed themselves yet," Vril Nara replied, looking at data about human nuclear weapons. Though they seemed to be trying. The Galmarians spent weeks collecting information. They watched human television broadcasts. They listened to radio signals. They took samples from the upper atmosphere. Everything confirmed what they expected to find. A young species barely a century into the nuclear age. Humans fought wars over resources, religion, and territory. They struggled with climate change and pollution. They seemed clever enough, but nothing special. "Their technology is advancing at a standard rate," Vril Nara noted as she updated the ship's log. "They follow the expected development curve we've seen in thousands of species." "Their social structures show the usual divisions," Dex Mora added. "Nations, tribes, competing interests. Nothing unique there." The Eternal Seeker continued its silent observation. The crew felt no urgency. They had done this many times before. Humans would be just another entry in their vast database of sentient life. But then something unexpected happened. At North American Space Command, Specialist Ethan Miller stared at his monitor with a frown. He had been calibrating a new orbital satellite when he noticed something odd. "Lieutenant Grant, could you look at this?" He called to his supervisor. Lieutenant Olivia Grant walked over to his station. "What am I looking at, Miller?" "There's a gravitational anomaly here." Ethan pointed to a spot on his screen. "It's subtle, but it's definitely there. Something's causing a slight bend in space right above the Pacific Ocean." Olivia leaned closer. "Could be a sensor error." "I thought so too, but I've run 3 diagnostics. The readings are consistent." Ethan pulled up another screen. "And there's more. There's a faint heat signature that doesn't match any known object." "A stealth satellite?" Olivia suggested. "Too big for that. And the position doesn't make sense for any nation's spy satellite." Ethan looked up at her. "What if it's not one of ours?" Olivia raised an eyebrow. "Not one of ours as in not from Earth," Ethan said quietly. Under normal circumstances, Olivia would have laughed. But she had worked with Ethan for 3 years. He wasn't the type to jump to wild conclusions, and the data on his screen didn't make sense. "Let's run some more tests before we take this upstairs," she said. "If we're going to suggest aliens are watching us, we need solid evidence." On the Eternal Seeker, an alarm sounded. Vril Nara rushed to the control room. "What's happening?" she demanded. The ship's sensor operator looked confused. "We're detecting targeted scanning beams from the surface. They're focused directly on our position." "Impossible," Vril Nara said. "Our cloaking technology is perfect. No pre-FTL civilization could detect us." "Nevertheless," the operator said, "they are scanning us, and the scans are becoming more precise." Dex Mora joined them, looking worried. "Should we move to a different orbit?" Vril Nara considered this. "No, that would confirm our presence. Let's boost the cloaking field and continue to observe. This must be a coincidence. Perhaps they're testing new equipment and happen to aim it in our direction." But over the next few days, the scans continued. They came from different locations on Earth, suggesting the humans were sharing information. The scans became more focused, probing different frequencies, as if searching for weaknesses in the Galmarian cloaking. "This is not normal," Dex Mora admitted after a week. "No species at this development stage has ever detected our presence before." Vril Nara had to agree. "We should report this to the Confederation Council. These humans may be more perceptive than we anticipated." Meanwhile, in an underground facility near Washington, D.C., Ethan and Olivia stood before a panel of military and scientific leaders. General Frank Collins looked skeptical as they finished their presentation. "Let me get this straight," he said. "You believe there's an invisible alien spaceship watching Earth and your evidence is some gravitational wobbles and heat signatures?" "Yes, sir," Olivia said firmly. "We've ruled out all other explanations. The math doesn't lie. Something large is up there. Something with technology advanced enough to hide from most of our sensors." Dr. Patricia Martinez, the head physicist, spoke up. "Actually, their findings match a theoretical model I've been working on. If you bend space-time in specific ways, you could create a type of invisibility shield. But the energy requirements would be enormous." "So you're saying they're right?" General Collins asked. "I'm saying it's possible," Dr. Martinez replied. "And if it is aliens, the fact that we can detect them at all is remarkable. It means our technology is more advanced than they expected." The room fell silent as everyone considered the implications. Finally, General Collins said, "Keep this quiet for now. Continue your observations, refine your detection methods. If there's someone watching us, I want to know everything about them before we decide how to respond." Back on the Eternal Seeker, the Galmarians made a decision. The humans had proven more interesting than expected. It was time to move to the next phase of contact. Vril Nara sent a message to the Confederation Council requesting permission to reveal themselves to humanity. The humans had passed the first test without even knowing it. They had seen what no one was supposed to see. They had questioned what their instruments told them instead of dismissing the unexpected. And most surprisingly, they had done it centuries before the Galmarians had predicted they would be capable of such perception. Perhaps these humans deserved a closer look after all. 6 months had passed since the Galmarians had revealed themselves to humanity. The first few weeks had been chaotic. People panicked, governments argued, and religious leaders debated what it all meant. But humans adapted quickly. Now, formal, diplomatic relations had been established with Earth's United Nations. Ambassador Daniel Howard and Dr. Samantha Wells led the human delegation. They met regularly with the Galmarian representatives in a special building constructed in Geneva, Switzerland. Despite being faced with the towering six-limbed aliens, they showed remarkable calm. "We appreciate the technological gifts you've shared with us," Ambassador Howard said during one meeting. He was a middle-aged man with graying hair and a steady voice that inspired trust. High Observer Zethkar nodded his large head. "The Confederation is pleased to guide younger species. The clean energy systems alone should solve many of your environmental problems. And the medical advancements have already saved thousands of lives," added Dr. Wells. She was younger than Howard, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Our scientists are studying them carefully. What the Galmarians didn't say was that they were offering only basic technologies, things they had developed thousands of years ago. They saw no need to overwhelm the primitive humans with their most advanced systems. It was standard procedure when dealing with new species." Cultural integration. Specialist Dex Mora watched the humans with interest. "They seem quite grateful," she said privately to Chief Xenobiologist Vril Nara. "As they should be," Vril Nara replied. "We've given them advances that would have taken them centuries to develop on their own. But over the next few months, something unexpected began to happen." Dr. Gary Peterson, working in a lab in Chicago, studied the Galmarian atmospheric scrubber design. The device could remove pollutants from the air with remarkable efficiency. After just 2 weeks, he called his team together. "Look at this," he said, pointing to his modified design. "If we replace these components with materials found on Earth, and reconfigure the intake system like this, we can increase efficiency by 30%. His team built a prototype, and it worked perfectly. When the Galmarians learned of this, they were surprised. This is unprecedented, Dexmora reported back to the Confederation Council via secure quantum link. The humans have not only adopted our technology but improved it using local materials. A lucky accident, perhaps, suggested one council member. I thought so too at first, Dexmora admitted, but it's happening with other technologies as well. In Houston, a team led by Dr. Keith Jackson had been studying the quantum communication network the Galmarians had provided. This system allowed instant communication across vast distances, though the humans had been given only a limited version that worked within their solar system. Dr. Jackson, a brilliant physicist with an unorthodox approach, had become fascinated with the technology. One day, Dr. Samantha Wells visited his lab. "Any progress?" she asked. "More than progress," Dr. Jackson said with an excited grin. "I think we found a way to double the network's capacity." He showed her his team's work. Dr. Wells, who understood the principles better than most humans, was amazed. "The Galmarians said this was the theoretical limit," she said. "They were wrong," Dr. Jackson replied simply. "Their approach assumes a stable quantum field, but if you introduce controlled instability at key nodes, you can actually increase data flow." 3 weeks later, his team built a working prototype. When Dr. Wells presented their findings to the Galmarian scientists, Vrilnara dismissed it immediately. "That's mathematically impossible," she said. "We've studied quantum communication for thousands of years. Your calculations must be flawed." "Perhaps you should see the prototype," Dr. Wells suggested politely. The demonstration left the Galmarians speechless. The quantum particles behaved exactly as the humans had predicted, in ways the Galmarian models had never considered possible. "How did you think of this approach?" Vrilnara asked Dr. Jackson afterward, her voice careful and controlled. Dr. Jackson shrugged. "We just looked at the problem differently. Your models are based on stability and predictability. We wondered, what would happen if we embraced a bit of chaos?" That evening, Vrilnara and Dexmora had a private conversation aboard their ship. "This is troubling," Vrilnara said. "These humans have been using our technology for less than a year, yet they're already modifying it in ways we never considered. Perhaps we underestimated them," Dexmora suggested. "Or perhaps they had help," Vrilnara countered darkly. "Could the Argosians have made contact without our knowledge?" Dexmora considered this. The Argosians were another advanced species, sometimes rivals to the Galmarians. "I don't think so. The modifications don't match Argosian design philosophy. This is something uniquely human." "Then we need to understand it better," Vrilnara decided. "The Council needs to know what we're dealing with here." Meanwhile, in labs and universities across Earth, humans continued to study and improve upon the Galmarian technologies. They didn't approach problems the way the aliens expected. Where Galmarians sought perfect solutions through careful, methodical research over decades or centuries, humans tried hundreds of imperfect solutions in parallel, sharing results and building on each other's work. In Boston, engineers improved the efficiency of Galmarian power cells by 15% by using principles borrowed from marine biology. In Bangalore, doctors modified Galmarian medical scanners to detect diseases earlier by applying statistical models developed for predicting weather patterns. In Seoul, computer scientists rewrote Galmarian algorithms to run faster by introducing what they called creative redundancy, a concept that made no sense to the aliens but worked surprisingly well. The Galmarian Council was becoming concerned. This was not how newly contacted species were supposed to behave. They were supposed to be grateful, deferential, and slow to understand the gifts they were given. "Perhaps we should limit further technology transfers until we better understand how they're making these advancements," one council member suggested. "That may be wise," High Observer Zethkar agreed. "But we must be careful not to show our concern. The humans have proven more unpredictable than we anticipated." Ambassador Howard and Dr. Wells sensed the change in the Galmarians' attitude. The aliens had become more guarded, less forthcoming with new technologies. "They're worried," Dr. Wells said during a private meeting with Howard. "We're not behaving like they expected." "Good," Howard replied with a small smile. "Let them worry. Humanity has always been adaptable. It's our greatest strength." "They thought they were giving toys to children," Dr. Wells said. "They didn't expect us to take them apart, figure out how they work, and make them better." Neither of them knew it yet, but the real test of humanity's adaptability was coming soon. On the edges of the solar system, sensors detected multiple objects moving at incredible speed. The Mechthar had arrived, and they were not coming in peace. The alarm sounded across Earth's defense network. Unknown ships had entered the solar system and were moving fast toward Earth. The Galmarian sensors had detected them first. A fleet of dark, angular vessels, unlike any humans had seen before. "The Mechthar," High Observer Zethkar told the Emergency Council meeting. His normally calm voice held an edge of concern. "They are an aggressive species from beyond the galactic rim. They have been pushing into our territory for centuries." General Susan Rivera of Earth's United Defense Force leaned forward. "What do they want?" "Resources, territory, conquest." Zethkar's large eyes blinked slowly. "They do not negotiate or communicate. They only take." Ambassador Howard looked grim. "What are our options?" "We have called for Confederation reinforcements," Zethkar said, "but they will not arrive for several days. The Galmarian defense vessels already in your system will move to intercept the Mechthar scout fleet." "And our ships?" asked Captain Lisa Rodriguez. She commanded the Earth Alliance ship Intrepid, one of 3 vessels humans had built using Galmarian technology. High Commander Zolvex, leader of the Galmarian Defense Forces, shook his head firmly. "Stay back. Your primitive ships would be destroyed instantly. The Mechthar weapons are beyond your understanding." Captain Rodriguez wanted to argue but kept silent. The Intrepid and her sister ships Defiant and Challenger were Earth's pride, but they were new and untested. The Galmarians had helped build them but had not shared their most advanced weapons or shield technology. "We will observe and learn," General Rivera decided. "But keep our ships ready." The Mechthar fleet entered Earth orbit 2 days later. 5 black ships, each shaped like a jagged arrowhead. They were met by 3 Galmarian defense vessels, elegant and silver, against the darkness of space. On the bridge of the Intrepid, Captain Rodriguez watched the sensor feed with her crew. Commander Ryan Porter, her second-in-command, stood beside her. "The Galmarians seem confident," he noted. Rodriguez nodded. "They've been fighting these Mechthar for centuries. They know what they're doing." The Galmarian flagship, unwavering doctrine, opened a channel to all Earth forces. "Observe our standard defense pattern," High Commander Zolvex transmitted. "We have perfected these maneuvers through thousands of engagements." The Galmarian ships moved in perfect formation. They executed a complex dance around the Mechthar vessels, firing precise energy beams at specific points. It was beautiful to watch, like a carefully practiced ballet, but something was wrong. "They're not hitting," Porter said with concern. "The Mechthar are evading." The Mechthar ships moved in unexpected ways, breaking the patterns the Galmarians expected. When the aliens fired back, their weapons struck the Galmarian shields with devastating force. "The Mechthar have developed countermeasures." Zulvex's voice came through, sounding shocked. "They've never done this before. They've always been predictable." The unwavering doctrine took a direct hit. Its shields flickered and failed on one side. The perfect formation began to break down. Captain Rodriguez watched for another minute, then made a decision. "Prepare to move in," she ordered her crew. "Ready all weapons." "Captain," her communications officer said, "High Commander Zulvex is ordering all Earth vessels to maintain position." Rodriguez took a deep breath. "Send this message. With respect, High Commander, we're moving to assist." The Intrepid broke from its observation position. The Defiant, commanded by Ryan Porter's brother Joe, followed close behind. "What's the plan, Captain?" Porter asked. "Their problem is predictability," Rodriguez said. "The Galmarians fight like they have a rule book. The Mechthar have figured out the rules. She turned to her tactical officer. So we're going to break the rules. Random evasive patterns, no formation. Each ship acts independently. She opened a channel to the Defiant. Captain Porter, make your ship do the unexpected. Don't tell me what you're planning, just surprise them. Joe Porter grinned on the video screen. With pleasure, Captain. The human ships entered the battle zone. Unlike the elegant movements of the Galmarian vessels, they zigged and zagged in chaotic patterns. The Intrepid would speed up, then suddenly cut engines. The Defiant would spin on its axis while firing in multiple directions. The Mechthar ships, programmed to counter the precise Galmarian attack patterns, couldn't predict these random human movements. Their targeting systems struggled to lock on. Keep changing shield frequencies, Rodriguez ordered. Pulse them at random intervals. The Galmarians had designed their shields to maintain a steady energy field, which was most efficient. The humans modified them to fluctuate unpredictably, making them harder to penetrate even though they used more power. One Mechthar ship turned to attack the Intrepid. It fired its main weapon, a beam of energy that should have cut through the human vessel. But the Intrepid suddenly dropped, letting the beam pass overhead, then fired all weapons at once. The Mechthar ship's shields held, but it broke off its attack, seemingly confused by the human tactics. Meanwhile, the Defiant executed a maneuver no Galmarian would ever attempt. It accelerated directly toward another Mechthar vessel, looking like it would ram it. The Mechthar ship veered away, right into the path of the recovered Galmarian vessel's weapons. The combined fire from the Defiant and the Galmarians damaged the Mechthar ship severely. They're retreating, Porter called out. Sure enough, the Mechthar fleet was pulling back, regrouping at the edge of the solar system before jumping to faster-than-light speed and disappearing. The bridge crew of the Intrepid cheered. Captain Rodriguez allowed herself a small smile before opening a channel to the Galmarian flagship. The unwavering doctrine looked damaged, but intact. On the screen, High Commander Zulvex stared at Rodriguez with an expression she couldn't read. You disobeyed. A direct order, he said finally. Yes, sir, I did, she replied calmly. You used our shield technology in ways that violate all established engineering principles. Yes, sir. You abandoned all tactical formations and fought without any discernible pattern or strategy. Rodriguez nodded. That was the strategy, sir. Unpredictability. Zulvex was quiet for a long moment. How did you know that would work? He asked finally, his voice bewildered. We didn't, Commander Porter replied with a shrug. But sometimes you have to improvise. The Galmarian commander looked from Porter to Rodriguez, then to his own officers. None of them spoke. The concept of improvising during battle, of not following established protocols, seemed to confuse them deeply. We have much to discuss, Zulvex said finally. The Mechthar will return with a larger fleet, and they will have analyzed your tactics. Then we'll come up with new ones, Rodriguez said simply. That's what humans do. As the ships headed back to Earth, Vril Nara and Dex Mora watched the recordings of the battle. They sent urgent messages to the Confederation Council. The humans had done it again. They had taken Galmarian technology and used it in ways the Galmarians never imagined. They had faced an enemy that had fought the Confederation for centuries, and they had driven them off with ships that should have been hopelessly outmatched. We need to reconsider everything we thought we knew about humans, Vril Nara said quietly. Dex Mora nodded. The question is, are they dangerous to us as well? Neither had an answer to that question. But one thing was becoming clear. Humans were, unlike any species the Galmarians had encountered before. The weeks following the Mechthar encounter changed everything. The Galactic Council held an emergency meeting to discuss what had happened. For the first time in thousands of years, humans were invited to attend, not as observers, but as contributors. Ambassador Daniel Howard and Dr. Samantha Wells represented Earth. Captain Lisa Rodriguez joined them too, as her actions during the battle had caused much debate among the alien species. The humans fought in a way we have never seen, one council member said. No formation, no standard tactics, no predictable patterns. And yet they succeeded where our ships struggled, another added. High Observer Zethkar addressed the council. Perhaps it is time we reconsidered humanity's status. They have proven themselves more resourceful than we anticipated. The council agreed. Instead of being viewed as junior protégés, humans were invited to contribute to various Confederation research and defense initiatives. Dr. Nicole Wright, a quantum physicist from Seattle, was chosen to lead a joint human-Galmarian team investigating new applications of quantum entanglement. The Galmarians had used this technology for simple communication for millennia, but had never pushed its boundaries. What if we could entangle not just particles, but entire systems? Dr. Wright asked during her first meeting with the team. The Galmarian scientists looked confused. To what purpose? Asked senior researcher Kolvar. Our communication system works perfectly as it is. But it could do so much more, Dr. Wright insisted. Imagine being able to transmit not just messages but energy, or even matter. That is theoretically impossible, Kolvar stated flatly. Dr. Wright smiled. Many things seemed impossible until someone tried them. Her human team members nodded in agreement. The Galmarians remained skeptical, but allowed the research to proceed. Within months, they had developed a communication system that operated with no detectable delay across vast distances. The Galmarian scientists had believed this was impossible for thousands of years. The math doesn't lie, Kolvar admitted after seeing the results. But how did you know to look in this direction? We didn't, Dr. Wright said simply. We tried 100 approaches. 99 failed. This one worked. The idea of trying approaches that would probably fail seemed wasteful to the Galmarians. Their research was always carefully planned, with each step building logically on proven concepts. The human willingness to embrace failure as part of the process confused them deeply. Meanwhile, the human propensity for art, music, and cultural expression began influencing the rigidly logical Galmarians in unexpected ways. Ambassador Howard had introduced the concept of jazz music to High Observer Zethkar during a diplomatic dinner. The alien had listened to a recording of Miles Davis with a puzzled expression. I do not understand the purpose of creating music without a predetermined structure, Zethkar confessed. That's precisely the point, Howard explained. We discover new patterns by allowing ourselves the freedom to explore without knowing the destination. Zethkar had pondered this idea for days. Then he asked for more Earth music to study. Soon other Galmarians became interested as well. This philosophy of exploration without predetermined outcomes began permeating Galmarian scientific methodology. Junior researchers, inspired by human approaches, started conducting experiments that their seniors would have dismissed as illogical or inefficient. The results were stunning. Breakthroughs that centuries of rigid linear research had failed to achieve suddenly became possible when Galmarians allowed themselves to try approaches that might fail. Perhaps the most significant change came when Chief Engineer Alex Morgan and his team were asked to review the Confederation's planetary defense network. For 30,000 years, the network had operated on the same principles, with only minor upgrades as technology improved. Morgan studied the system for weeks, then gathered his team for a meeting with Galmarian defense officials. Your system is like a wall, he explained. Strong, solid, reliable, but when something breaks through, everything behind it is vulnerable. What alternative do you suggest? Asked Defense Minister Zuldex, brother of High Commander Zulvex, Morgan. Displayed a diagram on the screen. We propose a defense system based on Earth's ecosystems, not a wall but a web. Adaptable, resilient, and capable of learning from failures. The Galmarians studied his proposal with skepticism. It called for smaller, more numerous defense units that could function independently but also work together. Each unit would have the ability to change tactics based on the success or failure of other units. This would require 10 times more resources to build, Zuldex pointed out, but it would be 100 times harder to defeat, Morgan countered. Think about how the Mekthar broke through your defenses. They studied your patterns and found the weak points. With this system, there are no fixed patterns to study. After much debate, The Confederation agreed to test Morgan's design in one-star system. When the Mechthar attacked again, the new defense network adapted to their tactics in real time. The Mechthar retreated with heavy losses. Within a year, the entire Confederation was adopting versions of Morgan's design. The integration of human thinking had reached beyond technology to the very way the ancient civilization approached problems. One evening, Vril Nara and Dex Mora walked through a garden on Earth discussing these changes. "They've influenced us more than we've influenced them," Dex Mora observed. Vril Nara nodded. "The Council is concerned. Some members fear humans will eventually surpass us." "Is that so terrible?" Dex Mora asked. "For 40,000 years we've believed we were approaching the limits of knowledge. What if we were wrong?" "That's what troubles the Council most," Vril Nara admitted. "Not that humans might surpass us, but that they've shown us how much we limited ourselves with our own certainty." They stopped to watch the sunset, a simple Earth phenomenon that Galmarians had recently begun to appreciate for its beauty, rather than just its scientific properties. "I've been studying human history," Dex Mora said. "Their short lives give them an urgency we lost long ago. They don't have time to take the slow, careful path we prefer. They must leap forward, take risks, embrace failure as a teacher. And sometimes they fall," Vril Nara pointed out. "Yes, but when they succeed, they reach heights we never imagined possible." As darkness fell, lights came on in the city below them. Human civilization glowed in the night, young and fragile compared to the ancient Confederation, but burning with an energy the Galmarians had forgotten millennia ago. The Galactic Council would meet again soon. High Observer Zeth Kar was preparing a historic address. After 10 years of contact with humans, it was time for the Confederation to acknowledge what they had learned from the species they had initially viewed as primitive and unremarkable. The universe, it seemed, still held many secrets, even from those who had explored it for 40,000 years. 10 years had passed since the Galmarians first detected human signals from the Sol system. In that decade, humanity had gone from being viewed as an unremarkable young species to becoming an essential member of the galactic community. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was filled to capacity. Representatives from over 200 species gathered for the centennial meeting. This important event happened only once every 100 years. For most species in attendance, this would be their only chance to witness such a gathering in their lifetime. For the Galmarians, who lived for centuries, this was merely another meeting. But this particular centennial was different. For the first time in 40,000 years, the Confederation had experienced a fundamental shift in its understanding of the universe and its place in it. High Observer Zeth Kar stood before the assembled representatives. In the front row sat the human delegation: Ambassador Daniel Howard, Dr. Samantha Wells, Captain Lisa Rodriguez, Dr. Nicole Wright, and Chief Engineer Alex Morgan. All had played key roles in the integration of humanity into the galactic community. Zeth Kar began to speak, his voice carrying through the vast chamber. "For 40,000 years, the Galmarian Confederation has charted the stars. We believed we were approaching the limits of knowledge. We thought we had discovered, if not all answers, then at least all meaningful questions." The chamber was silent. Even the species known for constant movement or noise were still, sensing the importance of the moment. Humans have shown us how dangerously limiting this perspective was. Zeth Kar turned slightly to look at the human delegation. "When we first discovered Earth, we saw what we expected to see: a young species taking its first steps into space. We observed their conflicts, their environmental challenges, their political divisions. We cataloged them as we had cataloged thousands of species before." He paused, his large eyes blinking slowly. "We were wrong." A murmur ran through the crowd. The Galmarians rarely admitted error about anything. The humans detected our cloaked ships when our sensors said that was impossible. They improved our technologies in ways we had never considered. They fought the Mechthar using tactics that violated every principle in our combat doctrine. And they succeeded where our carefully calculated approaches had begun to fail. Images appeared in the air around Zeth Kar, showing key moments from the past decade: the modified atmospheric scrubbers, the quantum communication breakthrough, the battle with the Mechthar ships, the new planetary defense system. Their brief lives give humans an urgency we had forgotten, Zethkar continued. Their divisive history taught them to question assumptions we had never thought to examine. Their biological limitations inspired them to create tools that opened doors we never saw. In the audience, Dr. Samantha Wells and Ambassador Howard exchanged glances. Beside them sat Captain Rodriguez, recently promoted to Admiral, and Dr. Wright, whose quantum communication breakthrough had revolutionized galactic society. In short, they reminded us of something essential. True wisdom begins with recognizing how much remains unknown. The council chamber remained utterly silent. Species that had often dismissed humans as newcomers were now looking at the human delegation with new interest. For centuries, we measured advancement by the age of a civilization, by the stability of its systems, by the consistency of its progress, Zethkar said. But humans have shown us that innovation often comes from instability, from necessity, from the freedom to fail and try again. He gestured to several young Galmarians standing nearby. Our own researchers have begun adopting human approaches. They try paths that may lead nowhere. They combine ideas from different fields. They allow themselves to explore without knowing the destination. One of the young Galmarians stepped forward and activated a display. It showed a new form of starship drive, one that used principles from both Galmarian and human science. This new drive will allow ships to travel twice as far using half the energy, Zethkar explained. It was developed by a team of Galmarian and human scientists working together, each bringing their unique perspective. More displays activated showing other joint projects. Medical advancements that could cure diseases previously thought untreatable, communication systems that could reach beyond the galaxy, defense systems that adapted to new threats automatically. The greatest scientific advancement of our age, Zethkar concluded, was not a technology or a discovery, but a way of thinking that humans brought to the stars. We thought we knew everything, until humans proved us wrong. And for that, the EI galaxy will forever be grateful. The council erupted in the equivalent of applause, a synchronized harmonic resonance from dozens of different species. The human delegation stood surprised by the response. Later, at the reception following the address, Ambassador Howard found himself speaking with Vril Nara. "Your words honor us," Howard said, "but we've learned just as much from you." Vril Nara nodded. "Perhaps that is the most important lesson. No species, no matter how advanced, has all the answers. It is only by combining our different perspectives that we advance together." Across the room, Dr. Wells was deep in conversation with a group of scientists from 5 different worlds. They were discussing a new project to explore the space between galaxies, something the Confederation had never attempted before. Admiral Rodriguez stood with High Commander Zulvex, now a close friend. Despite their difficult first meeting, they were training a new generation of officers, both human and Galmarian, to work together using the best tactics from both traditions. Chief Engineer Morgan was showing his latest designs to an eager group of young engineers from a dozen worlds. His ideas had spread far beyond defense systems, influencing everything from city planning to agricultural methods. As the evening continued, Zethkar found a moment alone with Howard. "There is something I have wondered," the High Observer said. "When we first revealed ourselves to humanity, weren't you afraid? We could have destroyed your world if we wished." Howard considered this. "Of course we were afraid. But fear doesn't have to prevent action. Sometimes it can inspire it." "Another human paradox," Zethkar said with what Howard had learned to recognize as a smile. "Finding strength in what should be weakness." "We're full of contradictions," Howard admitted. "It's what makes us human." "It is what makes you extraordinary," Zethkar replied, "and why the galaxy is fortunate you looked up at the stars and decided to reach for them." As the celebration continued around them, humans and aliens of all kinds mingled, shared ideas, and planned for a future none of them could fully predict. The universe remained vast and mysterious, full of wonders for those humble enough to be surprised. And that, perhaps, was the greatest lesson humanity had taught the stars. Certainty was the enemy of discovery, and the joy of learning never ended as long as questions remained to be asked.